The tavern door thudded shut against a gust of wind, the sound swallowed by a thick fog of pipe smoke that clung to the rafters like a burial shroud. Inside the rusted hook, lanterns cast a golden haze over smoke-stained beams and groaning floorboards, illuminating the faces of rowdy miners and craftsmen who roared with delights as they cheered on arm-wrestling bouts at scarred wooden tables. The air reeked of spilled ale and laborers' sweat, a stench of camaraderie and defeat. In a dimly lit corner, Chaka sat by himself, a towering figure of nearly 7 feet, all scarred muscle and restrained rage. He held a tankard of weak ale tightly, his knuckles, each one a tale of fractured bones and torn flesh, gripping the handle as if it were a lifeline. The wavering light etched his face with the history of past battles, the lines around his eyes more pronounced than the grooves on the table. He felt a nagging presence of his limp, a reminder of a leg that never fully recovered. Yet a part of him resisted the acceptance of this vulnerability. The crowd erupted in cheers as another wrestler secured victory over his opponent. Chaka glanced down at his ale, where the lantern's glow flickered like a fading ember. Those cheers had once fueled his spirit, filling him with purpose and pride. Yet now, as their echoes lingered in the air, he felt torn between the ghost of the man he used to be and the hollow shell he'd become. Flashback to Chaka, a prodigy in the wrestling world and a champion among men. His unmatched strength and formidable muscles served as both impenetrable armor and a source of immense power, comparable to that of an elephant. The tournament was a formal contest designed to determine who would earn the right to teach martial arts in the mountain lands. Chaka's first opponent was a foreigner from the south, named Rene Delenti, a master of submission techniques. The match began with them locking arms. Chaka quickly recognized the power and skill disparity. He estimated himself to be 40% more technically skilled and having a 13% power advantage. Before Chaka could make his move, Rene wrapped his legs around Chaka's waist, pulling him down. Stay calm, Chaka thought, focusing on avoiding submissions, grabbing Rene's wrist and pinning it to the ground. Chaka executed this plan, but Rene squeezed Chaka's midsection like a python with its prey. Chaka maneuvered his right arm under Rene's body into a bear hug. Chaka twisted Rene's wrist into a lock, gritting his teeth. The man's legs coiled tighter and tighter around Chaka's ribs. Checkmate, thought Chaka, as he stood up and used his leverage to attempt to break Renee's guard. In a desperate move, Renee grabbed Chaka's heel, trying to sweep him off his feet. Chaka maintained his balance by hunching over. This back and forth continued for several minutes. Chaka would rise, Renee would grab his heel and nearly topple him, and Chaka would lower himself again. Finally, a brief lapse in Renee's guard allowed Chaka to try hopping over his legs, but Renee managed to trap him again. The match extended for over 30 minutes, with Renee's guard proving resilient. Each time his strength faltered, Renee repositioned himself. Chaka never relinquished Renee's wrist throughout the match. Ultimately, as Chaka stood tall once more, Renee's guard weakened, and Chaka seized the moment to leap over Renee's legs. The crowd erupted in cheers. Chaka had emerged victorious. The peace of his silence was abruptly shattered when a drunken figure stumbled towards him. The man's cheeks were flushed crimson, and the bloodshot eyes swam with the haze of too much drink. He clapped a hand to the table, sending a tremor through the wood as he swayed slightly, a broad grin cracking his face. "Ain't that the mountain bear?" The drunk slapped the table, ale sloshing over the rim of his tankard. "One arm wrestle, big man." Chaka's knuckles whitened around his mug. Chaka's brow furrowed slightly as he lifted his eyebrow. He recognized the voice, the challenge so often thrown at him with a mix of bravado and foolishness. With a faint crack, he sent his mug down and let the air grow still around him. His response was deliberate, measured. "Not tonight," he said, his voice soft, yet carrying the weight of a steel hammer. The drunk's enthusiasm wilted under the weight of Chaka's refusal. He staggered back, grumbling in disappointment, the vibrant energy of the tavern returning as the crowd cheered anew for the match at hand. As the man retreated, Chaka's mind drifted to the moments he'd spent in the ring, where the cheers had fueled him, transformed him into something beyond himself. The thrill, the intensity, it all felt buried now beneath layers of guilt and memories that gnawed at him quietly in the corners of his mind. Alone again, the noise of the tavern washed over him like waves against a shoreline. Restlessness and consuming. There was no place for silence in a crowd, yet he found it in the clutches of his solitude, wrapping around him like a comforting cloak. The drunken shouts and clanging tankards faded, only until his heartbeat remained, a lone drum, the cadence of his very life. He found himself staring into the smoky glow ahead, and it occurred to him how different it felt from the spotlight that had once cast him as a giant, a titan amongst men. Now, he was simply another lost soul in a tavern filled with voices too loud for his own thoughts, too bright for the shadows that stretched in his heart. He took another drink from his tankard, feeling the warmth slide down his throat like a distant fire against the chill in his bones. Outside, the wind howled through the streets, rattling the old tavern windows and whispering secrets of a world beyond. The dark world that loomed in every shadow, waiting for his chance. Yet for now, he simply sat, nursing his ale, wrapped in his thoughts, holding his silence close.